It was the kind of evening that blanketed small-town Oregon in golden light, the sun dipping just below the trees lining Willowbrook Avenue. People were settling in for dinner, porch lights flickered on, and the faint sound of crickets chirping marked the early arrival of twilight. But for one little boy, the day had only just begun. Lucas Martin, age 8, sat alone on the cracked steps of his foster home, his knees hugged to his chest. The McAllisters were decent people, but decent didn't fill the hole that losing his parents had left behind. That kind of emptiness came in waves strong, unannounced, and cold as the Oregon rain. Lucas wasn't crying. He hadn't cried in months. But his eyes watched the street like they were waiting for something or someone, and that's when he saw him. A scruffy, mud-streaked golden dog was limping up the sidewalk, his ribs faintly visible under his matted fur. His eyes were the color of honey, soft and unsure, and they met Lucas's gaze without fear. The dog paused at the gate and looked at him, his head tilting slightly. "Hey there," Lucas whispered, his voice barely louder than the breeze. The dog didn't run. Instead, he sat down right there on the other side of the fences if he had been looking for Lucas all day. And that's how it started. A dog with no name, Lucas, named him Buddy. Because that's what he'd always wanted, a buddy. He smuggled scraps of chicken and crusts of bread from the kitchen, sneaking outside when the McAllisters weren't watching. Buddy would wag his tail once, slow and grateful, before gently taking the food from Lucas's hand. But Buddy never barked. Not once. There was something quiet and deeply sad about the dog, something that reminded Lucas of himself. They were both orphans in their own way. "I wish I could keep you," Lucas whispered one night, curling up beside Buddy behind the tool shed. "You're the only one who doesn't make me feel invisible." Buddy rested his chin on Lucas's knee. That night, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter over Willowbrook. Trouble in the neighborhood didn't take long for people to notice the stray. Mrs. Hendricks down the road swore Buddy had dug up her flower beds. Mr. Knowles said the dog growled at his cat, which no one had seen in days. "I'm calling animal control," he said loudly one morning, shouting from his porch. That mutt's a menace. Lucas heard every word. His heart thudded like thunder in his chest. "No, please," Lucas whispered to no one. "He's not bad. He's a good boy." That day, Lucas skipped school. He waited near the woods with a sandwich in his backpack and fear in his throat. Buddy appeared, as he always did, like a silent promise. "They're gonna take you, Lucas," said, tears finally finding their way down his cheek. "And I can't let them." The next part was stupid, reckless, but Lucas was only 8, and his love was pure. He decided to run away with Buddy. A journey begins. Lucas knew the McAllisters would call the police, but he also knew the woods behind Willowbrook stretched for miles, and if they were lucky, they could make it to the highway. The two of them walked until the sun dipped again. Lucas shared the last of his crackers and curled up beside Buddy under a blanket of pine branches. He didn't sleep. Not really. He thought about his mom, about how she used to call him my brave little explorer. And then, just as he was drifting off, Buddy growled low. Deep, protective. Lucas sat up. There was movement in the woods, crunching leaves, a shadow. Then a voice. "Hey," a man's voice barked. "What are you doing out here?" A flashlight beamed right into Lucas's face. Behind it stood a forest ranger, tall and startled. "What in God's name, kid? Are you alone?" Lucas looked down at Buddy. The dog stood in front of him, growling quietly, his stance protective. "He's mine." Lucas blurted, "Don't hurt him." The ranger lowered the flashlight. "Nobody's gonna hurt anyone, son. But we need to get you out of these woods." In the shelter, Buddy was taken to Pine Creek Animal Shelter, and Lucas was brought back to the McAllisters, who hugged him tighter than they ever had before. But all Lucas could think about was Buddy cold and alone in a metal cage somewhere. They said he might be put down. Lucas said to Mrs. McAllister, his voice trembling, "Not if he has an owner." She said gently. Lucas looked up, hope flickering behind his eyes. "You mean?" "If I adopt him," Mrs. McAllister nodded. "We'll need to talk to social services, but I think we can try." A heart bigger than his years, Lucas spent the next week raising money. He offered to rake leaves, walk dogs, help neighbors with groceries, anything. Word spread quickly, and the people of Willowbrook began to soften. "Is this for that stray dog?" Mrs. Hendricks asked, handing Lucas a warm muffin along with a $5 bill. "Yes, ma'am." She smiled. "He sat on my porch the other day. Didn't touch a thing. Just sat with me like he knew I was lonely. Mr. Knowles even admitted his cat came back and Buddy never went near her. Maybe I was wrong about that mutt," he mumbled, slipping a 20 into Lucas's jar by the end of the week. Lucas had raised over $300, a promise kept the day Buddy was officially adopted. Lucas wore a shirt and tie. He stood proudly next to Mrs. McAllister, holding the leash of a freshly washed Buddy. "He's a good boy," Lucas told the shelter clerk. "He's always been a good boy." Buddy looked up at him and wagged his tail twice this time. They walked out of the shelter as a family, and that night, as Lucas lay in bed with Buddy curled at his feet, he whispered into the dark, "Thank you for finding me." Buddy licked his hand once before falling asleep. The first few weeks after Buddy became an official part of the Martin family were like waking up in a dream. Lucas had never known what peace truly felt like until he saw Buddy sleeping soundly by his bed every night, his paws twitching as if he were chasing something in a faraway field of dreams. The nightmares that used to jolt Lucas awake of sirens, cold hospital rooms, and an empty car seat began to fade. For the first time since the accident, he felt ... safe. But life, as always, had its own plans, a new beginning, and new fears. Mrs. McAllister had been in regular contact with social services, advocating for Lucas to be officially adopted. The McAllisters didn't have children of their own, but they had hearts the size of Oregon's forests. "We'd like to make this permanent," she told Lucas one morning as she buttered toast in the kitchen. Lucas stared at his plate, like ... forever. Mr. McAllister chuckled and rustled his hair. "You, us, Buddy. Sounds like a family, doesn't it?" Lucas nodded, tears threatening to spill. "Buddy, too." "Of course," Mrs. McAllister smiled. "We'd never separate you two." Trouble returns, but just as things were settling down, something unexpected happened. One afternoon, while walking Buddy through the park, Lucas noticed a man watching them. He wore a leather jacket and had a jagged scar across his right cheek. At first, Lucas thought nothing of it. But the man appeared again the next day, closer this time. Buddy seemed to notice too. His tail stiffened and a low growl rumbled in his throat. "Let's go home, boy," Lucas said quickly, tugging the leash. That night, Buddy paced in circles instead of sleeping. He kept getting up, sniffing at the door, his ears alert. Lucas couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The truth about Buddy the next morning. A police cruiser pulled into the McAllisters' driveway. Officer Jensen stepped out, hat in hand. "We need to talk about Buddy." Lucas's stomach dropped. "We've had someone come forward claiming the dog is his," the officer said, carefully. "Says the dog's name is Ruger. He has photos and vet records to prove it." "No," Lucas shouted, tears welling up. "He's mine. He's not Ruger. He's Buddy. I saved him. He found me." The officer kneeled. "I know it's hard, son, but if the dog was stolen or ran away, he wasn't stolen. He was abandoned. He had cuts, he was starving, he didn't bark for weeks." The officer sighed. The man says the dog was taken after a break-in. He filed a report 6 months ago. Lucas clenched his fists. Ask Buddy who he belongs to. He'll tell you. The officer smiled sadly. I wish it were that simple. A test of loyalty. The meeting was scheduled for the next day at the police station. Lucas didn't sleep a wink that night. Buddy stayed close to him, head on his lap. Sensing the boy's fear, when they entered the room, Lucas froze. There stood the man from the park, the one with the scar. That's Ruger, he said immediately, pointing at Buddy. That's my dog. Buddy stiffened, but didn't move. Come here, boy, the man called out. Ruger, come on. Buddy didn't budge. Instead, he turned and pressed himself against Lucas's legs. Try again, the officer said. The man crouched, clapping his hands. Ruger, sit, boy, sit. Buddy didn't move. Lucas gently whispered, Buddy, sit. And Buddy sat. The entire room fell silent. Dogs no love. Officer Jensen finally said, looking at the man. And I don't think this one knows you anymore. It's a real story after some pressure from the authorities. The man admitted the truth. Buddy had been used for illegal dogfights. When he lost one match to many, a man abandoned him on the outskirts of town. He wasn't earning any more, the man grumbled. So I dumped him. That was enough. Not only was the man arrested for animal cruelty, but Buddy officially became Lucas's dog forever. The town rallied behind the story. Local papers ran headlines like Boy and Dog Save Each Other and A Good Boy Gets a Second Chance. Donations flooded the Pine Creek shelter. A mural of Buddy and Lucas was even painted outside the town library. Time heals. All a year passed. Lucas turned 9. The McAllisters officially adopted him. Buddy's fur grew thick and shiny, his eyes bright, his tail always wagging. He became a bit of a celebrity around town.